Hey, everybody. Welcome to Finding Your Music Mojo with TC and Dawn. I'm TC from TKR Video Central.
And I'm Dawn from Two Hip Chicks.
And joining us today is a friend of mine who is really into 50s and 60s vintage music. Her name is Katie. She operates the Vintage and Vinyl channel on YouTube, and also her Instagram address is running in the crawl there. Katie, thank you for coming on. Much appreciated.
I'm thrilled to be here tonight, TC and Dawn. Thanks for having me.
We've done a couple of things together before on Record Store Day, and well, maybe we might do another one. We don't know yet. Katie, just for the viewers out there and for us too, you are a big, vintage person, obviously. What attracted you? How did you get into the 50s and 60s music? Because I know you are almost positively obsessed with it. You love it that much.
I am. Everywhere I go, I've got 50s on 5, the radio station that's through Sirius XM playing in my car. I always have 50s music in the background. This weekend, I was just listening to some Etta James. So, I live and breathe 60s music, 50s and 60s. But I really got interested in it because of my grandparents. I remember distinctly one summer, my dad's parents, we called them BB and Papa, had picked us up from my mom's house, and we were driving to visit my dad like we did every summer. And this time they picked us up instead of my dad. So we had the Sirius radio on in their car driving up the Virginia mountains. And BB said, we'll listen to some of the stuff that you guys want to listen to, but we're going to get control of the radio a little bit. And they put on this 50s station, which I think then was 50s on 5. Now it's 50s gold. But I remember sitting in the back seat, hearing this music, this doo-wop music, which I had never heard before in my life, and thinking, this is kind of catchy. Like, I probably shouldn't be liking this because, this is my grandparents' music, but I like it. My brother, was bored to tears because he was into heavy metal. And I just loved it. And I thought it was so cool. And I kind of didn't think much of it after that for a number of years until my other grandparents took me to see Buddy Holly, the Buddy Holly story at the Muni Opera in St. Louis, which is a wonderful outdoor musical theater venue if you've never been. And they've been there a million years. And I remember going to that show and listening to that music and just falling in love with it all over again and remembering how cool it was listening to it in my grandparents' car, my other grandparents, and thinking, I got to find some of this music. And I had just gotten a record player, and I thought, I'm going to find some of this out there. And my grandma said, well, there's a record store at the Delmar Loop, I think, if you want to go in there. So she drove me over to the Delmar Loop, and I went in there and I found Frankie Valli in the Four Seasons, Sherry, and a whole slew of other Frankie Valli albums, and started with that, and then found some Buddy Holly and just fell in the rabbit hole and been collecting.
It's a big rabbit hole. Yeah. That's
a
so
big
cool.
rabbit hole.
We mentioned the Delmar Loop. I'm assuming we're talking about vintage vinyl.
Yep, in St. Louis.
Because I know you went and showed off a lot of the stores in St. Louis during your recent vacation. We loved that. It was so much fun. Hello to Dave, the pickup artist. Thank you for coming in from Jacksonville, Katie.
Oh,
so that's your neck of the woods.
It is.
What are some of your favorite acts overall besides Buddy Holly and the Four Seasons? You obviously love them. I've noticed whenever you've been talking about purchases and stuff, a lot of them are doo-wop groups that some of them I haven't even heard of for the 50s and 60s. So obviously that's where your forte is. What are some of your favorite groups?
I love 50s doo-wop, and there's so many different doo-wop groups. It's amazing to me how many thousands of groups were just singing on the street corner. A lot of them didn't even get a record deal. They might have a one-off song on a 45 that's really rare. I tune in every Saturday night to Johnny G's Vinyl Treasure Show here on YouTube, and he's got over like 8,000 45s or something crazy like that, and over 300 LPs. And he plays these rare doo-wop groups. And so a lot of them I actually discovered through him. Of course, 50s on 5 has a doo-wop hour, which is sort of a fun little show that they've kind of ripped off of Gus Gossard. If you know Gus Gossard, he kind of started the whole word doo-wop back in the 70s before he died. He had a big radio show out in New York, I believe. But a lot of the stuff that Gus Gossard played, some of it was rare, and I think Johnny really was inspired by him and collected a lot of those rare records. So a lot of the groups that I like are featured on his show and on the doo-wop show on 50s on 5. I love the Jacks. The Penguins are a great group. Gosh, there's so many. There's thousands of groups out there that are just amazing. I listen to the Skyliners a lot. I've got an album from them. Hank Ballard and the Midnighters. I mean, just tons of amazing groups. The Impalas are another one of my favorites.
I know. I know the Penguins. They're the ones that did Earth Angel.
Yep.
That one I know. And Hank Ballard and the Midnighters did the original version of One Monkey Don't Stop No Show, I believe, that Honeycomb had a hit with again in 1971. I also know that you have a soft spot for one particular crooner that's from that era. You are a huge Sam Cooke fan.
Oh, I love Sam Cooke. That is probably one of my favorite albums. Is just a very inexpensive Sam Cooke compilation album. You know, we all have that record that when you're testing out a stereo system or you're showing off your system to somebody and you're like, I'm going to play this one record that sounds really good. That little $5 record that I bought somewhere is still arguably one of the best sounding records in my collection. And it is Sam Cooke, and it is just such an amazing album. I mean, his vocal style on that album just is to die for. And it's something I think anybody can start off listening to and kind of fall in love with it.
Yeah, and I know you were very excited about the Sam Cooke collection that came out last year. I think it was on Record Store Day, and I was looking at all the different stuff that you were showing off that had been included, and so obviously that was very much worth it to you for something like that.
It was not a cheap album. It was $55, but you got all of these reproduction ephemera pieces with it, which I think is very cool, from various concerts, and it was all of Sam Cooke's early gospel stuff when he was with the Soul Stirrers. So, I mean, it's just a really great 3-part LP set, and I thought it was worth every bit of $55.
Oh yeah, for sure. Do you have a like, is there a particular style of doo-wop that you enjoy, or break it out?
That's a good question. A lot of people say that they're either, East Coast or West Coast doo-wop fans, and I like both equally, to be honest. Okay. If just listening to the song, if it kind of sparks a fun groove, then I definitely like it. There are some weird doo-wop songs, because I will say, when you get into some of the 50s stuff, I'm not going to lie, there are some songs you listen to and you're like, okay, that's a little bit boring. One of them that Johnny played one night, there's a lot of novelty songs. And when you get into novelty songs, some of them are fun and some of them are just pure annoying, I'll be honest. One of them, I can't remember. I wrote the song down. I have a million sticky notes in my listening room from Johnny's show of stuff I've scribbled down that I'm like, I hope to find, or I got to get a reissue of. One of them was the song, because it was so bizarre. It was a baby wailing at the beginning of the song, and it's the baby crying, and then it has the rest of the song. And that song is not one of my favorites. That was interesting. But there's a lot of other really good novelty songs. The Playmates did a song called Beep Beep, which is just so much fun, but also kind of bizarre. There's another one, Nervous, Nervous, I think is the song. But it's about a guy getting a blood transfusion.
Yep.
So there's a lot of songs like that in the 50s that were almost cautionary tales too, that kind of warned people about, hey, don't do this. And then there were some that were just bizarre.
Okay, let's get into some of what you brought. You've got stuff to show off. Let me how do I do this?
Bring on the
feature up here so we can get her where we can see what you've got here. Let's get we go. Katie, it's all
There you
yours.
go.
Fabulous. Well, I was going through all of the albums as you see behind me, and it's so hard to pick like just a few because there's so many that you go through and you think that's so good. So I just brought a stack, but I couldn't bring everything. But I'm very lucky to find quite a few original presses through Discogs and through record stores, and also through antique stores. You know, a lot of times there's antique stores that will have things in bins and they don't know what they're really worth. They're just trying to get rid of them. They found them at an estate sale. And if you're getting into vintage records, particularly 50s records, that's really the best way to shop for some of these because they can get pretty expensive. And I know a lot of people probably wouldn't think 50s records are worth a lot, but you'd be surprised. There's some that are worth up into the hundreds, if not thousands.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I could easily see where you'd be paying that kind of money for some of those.
And in good condition. So this is one I talked about, the Impalas. I just absolutely love them. And they had a song called Sorry, I Ran All the Way Home. And this is the original press on Cub. It came out in 1959. They're out of Brooklyn, New York. And this is one of the prize records here in my collection because this is just such a great song. And if you haven't heard it, I'll say that with probably all of these. Just go on YouTube, get a quick listen because you'll really enjoy the Impalas. And this is just a fun, I would almost call it slightly novelty, fun little song. So I've got the Impalas. And then another group that I love is the Clovers. And the Clovers did so many fun things. They were formed in Washington, D.C. in 1946. But this song has Ting-a-ling on it, which I absolutely love. I love songs that sort of have a fun, like almost gibberish lyric, which is about doo-wop. It really is a made-up word. It didn't really spawn out of something from a normal English language word. Doo-wop, actually, the first doo-wop sound that we ever heard was from a group in 1946. They featured it in their backing vocals, the Delta Rhythm Boys. And then other groups started using it sort of as a fun backing vocal. But nobody really saw the term doo-wop in print until the Marcel's Blue Moon album came out in 1960. And they actually put it in print in a New York newspaper, the word doo-wop. And it kind of caught on a little bit. And then Gus Gossert made it famous on his radio show back in the 70s. But this is a fabulous little album, Clovers. They also covered Devil or Angel on this album.
Okay. I like that one.
I don't know them. That's a band I'm not familiar with at all. Katie, what are your friends that's just popped in?
Hey, Nate's in New Zealand, so that's awesome that Nate's tuning in.
Hey, Nate, welcome.
I don't know if the Clovers were the first group to do Devil or Angel or not. Again, that's a song that was covered a lot by a ton of other groups. You'll see it, all kinds of 50s compilation albums and so forth, but gotta love the Clovers. And this is an original press on Atlantic. I was very lucky to find that in an antique store for $1, which I about died when I saw it.
How was the condition? Was it decent?
Yes, it was almost near mint.
Oh, excellent deal.
The Impalas that I showed earlier, that one's a little rougher. It's probably a VG minus, but it does play. And that's some of the fun things you get into when you search for 50s or 60s records. Sometimes you might have to go down a grade or two until you can find a better condition one because they're just so hard to find nowadays. And this was another one I recently picked up at my local record store for $25, which I thought was a steal. This is Billy Ward and the Dominoes. Love them. And this particular one came out in 1958 on Liberty, and it is an original press. This has Music Maestro, Please, which I know was covered by other groups, These Foolish Things. It's got a lot of great music on here. Stardust is wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
So I was thrilled to get this. And Billy Ward and the Dominoes did so many great songs. They're a group out of Savannah, Georgia. But I love them. And then this is an interesting album here. This is the Diamonds, and they had a huge hit with Little Darlin'. This
Mhm.
Oh, okay, yeah.
1957. This is actually a Canadian group, which is interesting. I have 2 records from the Diamonds, and this record, surprisingly, is very easy to find, but this has Little Darlin'. But one of my favorite songs on here is Zip Zip. Again, it kind of goes along with that gibberish theme. I just think it's so fun.
Yep.
There's something infectious about this music, and you can kind of picture too people back in the 50s where their parents probably thought a lot of this, particularly with early rock and roll, when you get into Chuck Berry and some of those other artists, that their parents didn't want them listening to for whatever reason, because they thought, probably it was devil music. And now you listen to some of today's music and you think, oh wow, well, this is very tame.
Yeah, that was not.
But it's fun to picture these kids, back in the 50s listening to this stuff, getting excited, going to record hops, and just the infectious feeling you get when you listen to this music is just amazing, in my opinion.
Yep. And this is MKT, one of our regulars who bought some Billy Ward.
Oh, that's awesome.
First, I'm not familiar with the name Billy Ward sounds familiar, but I don't think I've actually heard anything.
Well, you probably Dominoes though, right?
Yeah, the Dominoes I know.
Yeah. Definitely give them a listen. This next album is fabulous. This is, to me, one of the quintessential albums of the 50s and 60s era. This is the Duke of Earl. This came out in 1962. He was born in Chicago, Illinois. And his name is not actually the Duke of Earl, but he got named that after wearing this cape on stage. And people just started calling him that, and it stuck. And this is original press on VJ.
Nice.
This album is wonderful. And to me, the Duke of Earl, it will always be one of my all-time favorite kind of doo-wop soul songs. It's just fabulous.
It is fantastic. I love the Nylons version of it from the 1980s. They did an incredible cover of it that was awesome.
Yep. And I think that this held spot number 3 for like 3 weeks on the top 100, Billboard Top 100. I like looking all that stuff up. It's really the is great. And I've got this too. Now, this I was really excited to find. I found a new record store when I was in St. Louis. It's called the Record Exchange. Vintage vinyl will always be my favorite because my YouTube channel name was inspired by them. It was one of my first record stores that I ever went into and fell in love with music. But I really, really love this other record store because they have boxes like piled to the ceiling of records. It is insane the amount of music they have there, as well as stereo gear. And they just had a bunch of 50s stuff that I had never been able to put my hands on. And I paid up for some records there, but I just knew that I'd never see them again. So, of course, I had to have them. And this was one of them. This is Bobby Luman, Let's Think About Living on Warner Brothers. This is such a great song. This came out in 1960. And what I love about this is that it kind of is a really interesting song that looks into some of the music of the era, because there's a lot of songs in the 50s that are sort of sad. They're about people dying. There's some tales about gangs and all kinds of bizarre stuff. And this song, Let's Think About Living, Let's Think About Life, not all the shooting and the dying and the killing. And I just think that is such a fun little song, kind of that talks about some of the other songs in the 50s that were just so sad.
Yeah, I'll link to that at some point on the show notes. I'll link to that video that you posted from Record Exchange, because that place is amazing. You went there with Mid-Century Wasted, correct? When they were in town, when she was on vacation this past spring, and it was that I would love to get my hands on. You can get me out of that store for about a week.
Yeah.
I live there.
Place, you need like 2 days to go through. It's amazing.
Yeah, no kidding.
And yes, Mom, Gene Chandler is the Duke of Earl.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, this song is fabulous, and it even mentions, if I could remember all the lyrics right off the top of my head, I could tell you. But it mentions all the different artists. it talks about Patty Page will be a wearing black and all of that fun stuff in the song. And he says that sooner or later, if we don't think about living, I'll be the only artist you can buy.
Ah,
The lyrics to the song are really clever, in my opinion. And speaking of St. Louis, Chuck Berry from St. Louis, this is one of my very favorite albums. Probably this album I would reach for if there was a fire.
okay.
Because this album is very hard to come by in good condition. I mean, you can find it, but it's not particularly easy. And this is Chuck Berry, One Dozen Berries. This has a Sweet Little 16 on it. Oh Baby Doll. It has Rockin' and a Reelin', rock and roll music. I mean, it has fabulous Chuck Berry songs that you just can't beat this album. It came out in 1958 and on Chess, and this is just such a wonderful album, and it's in actually very good condition for its age, and it's got the original.
Oh well, yeah, that pun for the title, One Dozen Berries. That's brilliant.
It is, and he had several albums titled something berries, which I think is just clever. Whoever did the marketing on that.
That was probably before he did My Ding-a-ling, right?
Yes. Oh yes.
Yeah. Speaking of songs with funny lyrics,
you have got a big fan of MKT. She's definitely digging your collection, Katie.
Oh yeah.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad. Yeah, I have almost every Chuck Berry album in my collection. I think there's a live album that I do not have, but I have all of the Chuck Berry stuff. And anytime Chuck Berry does a record store day release, they had a live from London one. I picked that up. I mean, Chuck Berry's fabulous. And
watching Dawn furiously writing notes down about everything.
You bet your sweet Posty. I'm making notes, honey. Hey, I'm always looking for more music. What the heck?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And you might discover, that's the beauty of this, you might discover some fun music that you didn't know you liked.
Exactly.
I have heard Bobby Luman, and I do enjoy Bobby Luman.
Well,
So I'm sure these other ones I'm going to. Oh, and of course some of the other ones you mentioned, but there's some I didn't know, and I'm writing them down. Yes, ma'am.
And 50s music isn't all that stuffy big band stuff that carried from the 40s. I mean, there's a lot of fun songs, and some that are, like I said, really strange, but also a hoot to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
This is Bobby Freeman, one of my other favorite albums. Do You Want to Dance? When you think 50s, I mean, this is just one of those great 50s albums. This came out in 1958. Bobby Freeman was from California, and this just was fantastic. I think this was number 5 on the pop charts and number 2 on the R&B charts for like a week. Do You Want to Dance? But this has When You're Smiling on it, which of course is a cover here. Little Girl, Don't You Understand? Mardi Gras Rock. Let's see what else is on here. Oh, Good Lovin' Is What I Need. You'll Never Walk Alone. I mean, this just has a ton of great songs. This is Chock-a-Block Full. It's on Jubilee. Love Bobby Freeman. Just showed the Chuck Berry London sessions on my last video you did, Dave. I have that album. That is very cool. It's a good album. I think is that the one that's on clear vinyl, if I'm remembering correctly? I have one Chuck Berry that's on clear vinyl. But yes, the London sessions are great. So I really like Bobby Freeman here. And then this album, this is hard to find. This is very hard to find in good condition. But I found it at that record store I just told you about in St. Louis. And this is In Style with the Crickets.
Oh, yeah.
This came out in 1960. This was released right after Buddy Holly's death. He died in 1958 in that horrible plane crash. And this album was released with the Crickets. Now, I paid up for this album. I think I paid close to $100 for it. It was not cheap. But I've never seen another copy of it. And so, yeah, $100 there's record exchange. But such a good album on Coral. It's an original press. on Coral, and I think this is highly underrated. People need to go listen to this because everybody always listens to the Buddy Holly stuff, but you gotta listen to this in style with the crickets. Okay, yours isn't clear, so then maybe I'm thinking of another album. But this has Ting-a-Ling on it, Rockin' Pneumonia, and the Boogie Woogie Flu, which is fabulous. If you're not familiar with that song, you definitely go listen to it. Baby My Heart, just tons of great stuff on this record.
I have to admit, I'm only familiar with Johnny Rivers' remake of Rockin' Pneumonia and Boogie Woogie Flu from the 1970s. So
yeah, there's a lot of good 1970s versions of some of these 50 songs, which are fun. I just had a conversation with someone the other day. We were talking about that song. I'll think of it here in a second. Istanbul. And she said, "Oh, this other band did it." And I said, "No, they weren't the first ones." And I said, "The Crew Cuts did a version of it back in the 50s." She said, "Really?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
is that silly thing that goes Istanbul, not Constantinople? And
yeah, that's the one.
Kim loves to do that song. She loves that song.
It's a good song. It's a good song. But
Hello?
you wonder where they got the lyrics for that.
Yeah. Hello, Patrick. Thank you for stopping by.
Hey, Patrick.
Patrick's one of the regulars over at the Chicks and
Yeah.
comic book supplier for me lately.
And the man with a voice. The man with a voice is Patrick Murphy, that's for sure.
Carry on.
I also have the Chirping Crickets here. My dad actually found this for me. We were shopping together when he came to visit. And he was so pleased that he found a record that I didn't have and that I had been looking for. And this is a original 1957 press on Coral. And this record here is not easy to find. Some of the Buddy Holly stuff is just tough. But I was pleased to get this. This has Not Fade Away on it. It's got That'll Be the Day. Rock Me Baby, Oh Boy. Oh Boy is probably one of my favorite Buddy Holly songs, but there's so many. So this is a killer album. It's definitely not easy to get this album. If you can find it at a good price, and $35 was a steal.
Yeah,
Frank
for that one, I
Zappa
think
did
you're
a
right.
potpourri version song in the 1970s called Memories of El Monte with doo-wop group hits. The Penguins did it, I think.
Really?
That sounds interesting. I've not heard of that.
I gotta take a note of that. Maybe looking that up after the show.
And Frank apparently wrote that too. Yeah, that'll be interesting. We'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
That is very cool. So you learn all neat things from the chat. I love that. I have a bunch of Lloyd Price albums. I love Lloyd Price. His voice is just amazing. He did a lot of fun stuff. And this is Lloyd Price, and it's got Lottie Miss Claudie on it. It's got Jimmy Lee, but one of my favorites here is it's got Oh on this particular album. This came out in 1959, and if you don't know, Lloyd Price was from Kenner, Louisiana, and he just has a voice. This is on Specialty Records. I actually have 3 Lloyd Price albums, probably more, but I couldn't decide, so I brought this album here.
The only song I'm familiar with by him was Personality. I'm not sure of his other stuff, so
I have Personality. I have the Personality album, but that's a great song too. Lloyd Price is just amazing. And he also was really big friends with Pat Boone, if you didn't know. And Pat Boone has an hour. This sounds kind of nutty, but Pat Boone has an hour on the 50s on 5 channel if you're a Sirius XM subscriber. And he is fascinating. He tells all these stories from meeting Fats Domino. He was very close with Fats Domino and Lloyd Price, and he has all these great anecdotes to tell, along with some great music. He does themes. Last week, I think, was a whole theme on cars, songs about cars, and you would just not believe the amount of 50 songs
man.
cars. It's amazing. I love Buick 59 by the Cadillacs. They did a great song. So that's fabulous. And then these 2 records I got in St. Louis. This was kind of a holy grail find for me. these two records. This is Hank Ballard and the Midnighters on King.
Nice.
This is just a fantastic album. Now, this has Work With Me, Annie. I believe they were the first ones to do Work With Me, Annie, which is a really interesting song because Etta James got an inspiration from Work With Me, Annie, and did a version, Dance With Me, Henry.
Yep.
So that's fun. Etta James did her version in 1958. This is a 1962 comp album that came out, original though on King, but this features Work With Me, Annie, which is, I just think, fabulous. And then, of course, they've always got fun songs, kind of like
Switchy, witchy.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at too, Dawn.
Yeah,
that's so nutty. It's Eurovision worthy.
and then they've got Annie's Aunt Fanny. So they do these songs that I think are great, where they'll have like, kind of a follow-up song, like, Peggy Sue, and then Peggy Sue Got Married that Buddy Holly did. Well, here's Annie's Aunt Fanny on here.
And Annie had a baby. So I believe that Annie did finally work with him, it seems.
And
Good
then,
to know.
They have Itchy Twitchy Feeling. Well, this is Switchy Witchy Twitchy on this album.
There you go. I love it.
I love this kind of stuff. It's so fun and interesting and great lyrics. This is another Hank Ballard and the Midnighters. This is Mr. Rhythm and Blues, came out in 1960. He was from Detroit, Michigan. And this has their most famous song, Finger Poppin' Time, which is so, so good. And the other song I like on this album is Coffee Grind. Now, this is signed. I think this is signed by the person that owned it. But again, I did pay up for this album just because I know I'll never see it again in this condition.
Yeah.
I think I paid $85 for it. There's just some records that when you see, you got to have.
Yeah, there's sometimes you just have to grab what you know you're going to want. So
and grab it when you see it, because it's not going to be there when you go back.
Yep.
Usually.
That's true. So, but the guy made a bundle deal with me. I took a bunch of stuff up. I probably had like 30 records, I think, from this record exchange place, and he gave me a great deal. So that was very
very cool.
This is one of my all-time favorite albums. I mean, how can you choose though with records, right? They're all your favorites.
Yeah.
But this is a group out of Pittsburgh. This record came out in 1959, and this is the Skyliners. I love the TWA airplane on the front. Calico.
Very cool.
This, of course, has Pennies from Heaven, which, lots of people did. Zing with the Strings of My Heart. But one of my favorite songs on here is One Night, One Night. They've just got some great songs on this particular album here. So I love that. Great album.
That's the result of a great art director that comes up with a shot like that for a band called the Skyliners. Brilliant job that was.
Before you get on the plane, guys, let's just stand here and get this picture.
Album cover.
Nice.
The Skyliners also had a song, I believe it's them, called Come On Over. Come on over, we're gonna have a happy time. That is a fabulous song, and if you've not heard it, it's a must listen to. I use it all the time in my stories when I have some special programming on my YouTube channel. I just think it's such a perfect song for that, for advertisements and things.
Mom Knows Treasures.
My favorite girl group, actually, this is it right here. The Marvelettes. I love them. They are my favorite. Now, I do love the Shirelles. I'm a big fan of the Shirelles. There's so many girl groups, though, that were good. So it is hard to choose. But the Marvelettes are definitely one of my favorites. In fact, I took a video a few days ago. I was in Target getting some soup. And I was in the soup aisle, and the Please Mr. Postman came on, and I started singing along to it. And I swear everybody in that Target thought I was off my rocker. You were 50s and 60s music in stores very much. So, of course, I had to record it. So excited about the fact that they're playing good music, or what's good music to me. That's, of course, subjective to everybody's listening taste. But, I'm really lucky to buy this. I won this on an eBay auction. I battled it out with a guy.
Oh,
Has the original price tag of $3.98 on the corner,
oh
which
yeah.
and this is an original press on the Tamala label.
Mm-hmm.
But this is just fantastic. Of course, it has Please Mr. Postman on it. It has Way Over 3, Happy Days, Angel, So Long Baby. I'm still looking. There's several Marvelettes albums, and I'm still looking for the one that has Beechwood 4, 5, 7, 8, 9 on it. I don't
Yeah.
have that album, but I would love it. Marvelettes are hard to find, and any of their stuff can just be quite expensive. But I won this for $50 on eBay, which for this album is really cheap. And I was really nervous that A, it would get broken in shipping, or B, it would not be what the seller described, because sometimes with eBay, like people just take the cover of an album and they don't really, take the matrix number, take extra pictures. And the guy had some decent photos, but it was sort of a gamble. And when it came, it was perfect. So I love it. And the other thing that I think is fun about this album, again, I'm all for the packaging and the fun little things, is they actually put this little letter on the back. And I'm sure, that they got 1,000 of letters written by fans, but you could write in it, and it says, a personal letter from the Marvelettes to you. The last time Mr. Postman walked by our house, he delivered to us the happiest letter we've ever received. In it was the news that you have made Please Mr. Postman our first hit record and given us the reason for presenting this album to you. After listening to our album, we would really appreciate you helping us to decide what your favorite song in this album is, and maybe your favorite will be our next single release. Just write us a letter and let us know which song you liked best. So why not give Mr. Postman your letter today, and be sure to tell him, deliver the letter, the sooner the better.
That is brilliant marketing. It really is. I agree with that.
I have to look at Google Maps and find out what that is in Detroit now. It's probably a vacant lot, but you never know.
2648 W. Graham Boulevard, Detroit, 6, Michigan. So see, it's got that one digit zip code. So it's before 1963. That's
Katie, I remember going back a year or so, you actually did buy an album that showed up completely shattered when you received it. Did you not?
It was the Shirelles, and it was Tonight by the Shirelles, and I was so mad because it was an original press and they're hard to find, but I did buy another one. I won another one on Discogs. You don't win, I guess you just buy on Discogs. Yeah. I did get it, and it wasn't in as good condition, so I'm still bummed about that.
Was it vinyl or was it shellac?
It was vinyl, but the person packed the record. They took the record and they shoved it in a poly mailer with no padding. And the post guy, who was a temporary postman for our area at the time, shoved the whole padded envelope into my mailbox without actually realizing that it shouldn't belong in there, and it doesn't. He somehow wedged it in there, and when I pulled it out, I could hear the record just...
around.
John is freaking out right now.
I am. I'm like, what?
Okay.
Mary is listening in, and she gave me the Google Map picture, and it is Hitsville, USA. So it's the old Motown building. Okay. So yeah, because Tamala was Motown, right? Basically. Yeah,
they were.
Thank you, darling.
Motown offshoot.
I can share.
I hope that they made that. I mean, did the post office did you have insurance on that when it happened, or?
I messaged the guy from Discogs and I said, hey, I'm sorry this record broke, and yada yada yada, and he goes, oh well, I'm so sorry about that. I'll refund you a partial refund.
No, you're the dipstick that put it in a poly mailer.
So I got half my money back, and then a record that was less not good. And actually, to complete this story, and I had kind of forgotten about this until now. The guy that I ordered the second Shirelles record from, it came, but the wrong record was in the album jacket. So I had to message the guy, and I was like, "Hey, this is not the Shirelles." And he's like, "Oh my gosh, I have thousands of records. I'm so sorry. I'll mail you the copy of the Shirelles. I'll find it, mail it, and get it right. And I'll just pay for the shipping and everything and just keep the other one." Well, the other one turned out to be a pretty rare doo-wop record I didn't have, so I'm not mad about it, but it took a while for me to get that record.
It's like, God dang it. Does Polymailer guy still sell on Discogs is my question.
Yes, and he has 5-star reviews. I don't understand.
Oh my gosh.
Hopefully he's upgraded his mailing methods.
Because that's not how you mail a record.
No.
God, no.
We'll have to talk after the show about that one.
Yeah.
Whoa. I've had a couple of bad incidents on Discogs too, but it was mostly from out of country mailing and never got it.
Yeah, I'm really weird about not buying records from out of the country because you just don't know with them,
Yeah.
And I'm really picky with 50s records because, I don't have any issues with reissues. In fact, I often say with 50s records, sometimes that's the best way to at least enjoy the music and get it on vinyl, because some of them, like I said, are just near impossible to get an original press of. Right. But I do like to try to find the original presses. And if on Discogs you don't have the matrix number listed, or you don't have actual information that kind of helps me believe that you are selling an original, I tend not to want to buy from you. Because it's the collector in all of us wanting to find a true original press. But I do have a lot of compilation albums, and like I said, that Sam Cooke compilation is one of my favorites.
Speaking of compilations, that's a perfect lead in. You are collecting the Sun series that have been coming out on Record Store Day. Did you ever find all of them, or are you still missing a couple of them?
I'm still missing a couple, but I did find volume 3 in a record store in Alabama. I walked in there and did not expect to find it. It was $10, and so I couldn't say no. I had to bring it home.
Yeah, geez, that's great.
And I love the Sun compilation series because they have such good songs on them. A lot of them you're not going to be able to find on vinyl very easily. And to have them all on a compilation album, and it's fun. You're supporting your local record store day. I just think the whole thing's brilliant.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Absolutely.
For sure. So how many have you gotten of that compilation, those editions of the Sun?
I think I have about 5 now.
Okay.
So 5, I think. I could be wrong.
So anybody listening out there, if you have one for sale, let her know.
Let me know. I picked up the one for this Record Store Day. I actually got to do Record Store Day in St. Louis at Vintage Vinyl, which was like a dream. It was amazing.
It was the shade of green that TC is turning right now.
She knows. Exactly. I talked to her about that. That was one of her vacation videos. I'm like, ah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I was there, and I thought, I was like 20th in line, and I had no idea. But usually the stuff I go after, most people don't want.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of 50s collector people out there. So I'm usually okay.
TC's over here going, yeah, me too. Yeah.
But sometimes the Chuck Berry stuff people do like.
Well, yeah.
But, I was in line and I thought, oh gosh, I'm 20th. Well, I get this record, and all the people in front of me were in there for the Taylor Swift album. They only had 2. And the girl in front of me, when they announced over the record system that they didn't have any more, she cried and ran out of the store. And she had been waiting a while. And then, of course, there were the 2 people that got it. I was kind of hoping would get it because they had been waiting since 8 the night before. I drove by and talked to them. They were camped out, and they were the nicest people. I interviewed them in my little video.
Yep.
And I just was like, I hope they get it, because nothing against the other people, but I kind of made friends with them in the line, and they were so nice, and they had genuinely been waiting and stuck out all that time. So I was like, please let them get it, and they did.
That's very cool.
That's horrible, though. Only 2. That's
It
horrible.
is, yeah. That's that. I don't know why. I mean, we've talked about this on our record store day shows, Katie. That they just sometimes it seems to be ridiculous that some places will get dumped on with a whole bunch of stuff that they can't sell, and then the ones that everybody wants, they get like 2 or 3 pieces of, and it just doesn't seem very fair to me.
The way that it's all allocated, I don't quite understand. But the popular stuff, they only have like 1 or 2, but then they'll get like 5 Sam Cooks, and I'm like, hey, that's great for me. But
yeah,
I'm gonna post the link to your YouTube channel in case anybody wants to check it out. Lots of great stuff over there. We're telling you all about these videos, and yeah, the videos from St. Louis, all of them were fun. Did you ever get your record hall video done from St. Louis, or did you? Because I never saw one, and I don't know if you did it for Instagram. I may have missed it over there. I don't know.
I did not get a vinyl haul done, but I have a whole tour of my apartment coming out this Wednesday. And so now that I've got that done, my hope is the next video will be an in-depth tour of those records and my record room, which is the room I'm in now. So that's what I hope to get all set up. But it took me a while because once I got home from St. Louis, a month or so later, I ended up moving, I think. And timeline seems like such a blur, but I have so many records I've been organizing. I mean, it's taken me an enormous amount of time.
I know that feeling. I'm still working on my office 2 years after I started it, so it's been nuts.
Yeah. So take a look around. Yeah.
And that doesn't include the garage there, Dawn.
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm up to here in 45s. I've got to go through 2 yet. But hey, now I've got some names that I need to really look out for. I mean, some of them I knew because I've had gotten 45s before with these people on them, but some of them I never heard of before. So I'm going to keep a sharper eye out now. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Oh, you're more than welcome.
For sure.
And somebody will end up buying them because that's one thing that we've noticed as Dawn and Mary have added 45s to their output. Everybody wants them again, which is really interesting.
Which is cool. Yeah. I mean, it's great. I enjoy the fact that we can share good music with people. That's, that's my thing for it. And I get to listen to them while I play grade them. So that's fun too.
So good music. So why do I keep getting I Can Help by Billy Swan?
It's in the pile, buddy. It's in the pile. I don't make the pile up. I just draw from the pile.
I know.
Random drawings. It's luck of the draw, unfortunately for you. Obviously, that was a popular title. There wouldn't be that many of them out there.
Yeah, it was a #1 hit, unfortunately.
Sorry. It's that and Chevy Van and what else? There's a couple other ones that are there's a ton of them out there. So
I haven't seen Chevy Van yet.
Oh, you haven't?
No, I don't think I thought that yet. So we'll see.
Okay, it's out there. It's Abracadabra.
We know who are there any besides the girl groups? Are there any female artists that you're really favorite of? I know you love Etta James.
I do.
And who else out there strikes you as top of the line 50s and 60s?
I love Etta James, and then another artist that Nate in the chat, since he's here, I'll talk about Nina Simone, but he's really gotten me into listening to her. So I picked up a compilation album, some of her stuff. I've been enjoying that, but yes, Etta James is a big favorite of mine. And I know everyone likes Sunday Kind of Love, but the Dance With Me, Henry, that album is probably my favorite of the Etta James stuff.
Speaking of Nina Simone, I actually, her daughter, who was just going by Simone at the time, played Mimi in the original tour company of Rent when it first came up here. And unfortunately, she was out the show. I got the understudy, but I've seen clips of her that she was fantastic. Just really something. As far as inheriting her mom's talent, she definitely did.
For sure.
That's fantastic. I also love Teresa Brewer, music. That's another favorite of mine. I've got that album. And actually, I just picked up a Teresa Brewer Dixieland Jazz album. And That album, I did not expect for it to be as good as it was, because I never heard it before. And I thought, Dixieland jazz, not sure. Man, that is a bop. The 50s music. I think it came out in like 1953. There might be a million copies of it out there. I don't know. But look for Teresa Brewer Dixieland Jazz, because you will have a ball listening to that album.
Cool.
Don, do you listen to any 50s stuff? Are you a big fan of any of them?
I listen to a bit. Most of it's singles, right? That's
Yeah,
that's what I get going with. A lot of them were inherited by, because I was youngest of many, well, not many, but a few older siblings. To make it sound like we had rabbits, or breeding like rabbits. A few older siblings had left like hand-me-down records, and I got to listen to some of those too. But yeah, a lot of the Silvers and the Stylistics and a few other ones like that. As far as Chuck Berry, of course, was in there, but my sibs were into Elvis a lot. Yeah, so there was a lot of Elvis there. There were some, just little obscure things, records that I picked up on. I have a question for Katie, though. You mentioned you were going to try to find the Beechwood 45789 song on one of their albums. Is it because the Carpenters did both Mr. Postman and Beechwood 45789, or is it because though you like their version?
I like their version of that song. I just think it's very good.
TC's looking at me like, sure, Carpenters. Bring in a Carpenters reference.
Dawn and I are both Carpenters fanatics. So
when she said that, she's like, and I'm looking for the Beechwood 4, and I'm like, Carpenters? Yeah.
And a lot of groups redid this music, so it's whatever version you like best is totally fun. But it's great to listen to some of the original 50s stuff and hear where it all came from.
Yeah. Katie, another thing that's always struck me funny about the doo-wop groups is it seems like there were like a group of 40 or 50 songs that 90% of them recorded. They'd all do their own version. Is there something you have like several different versions of that you have a hard time deciding which one you like the best?
That is a very good question. Yes. And like TC said, you will find a ton of groups that recorded different songs. There's a lot of different recordings of Devil or Angel. The Clovers version I have here, and I really like that version, but there's other versions of it. Gosh, I can't off the top of my head.
That's putting you on the spot. Yeah, I know that's putting you on the spot.
There's so many versions. In fact, today there was a version of Jerry Lee Lewis was singing it, and I thought, I do not like this version. It was a version of Sweet Little 16 by Chuck Berry, and I never heard the Jerry Lee Lewis version. And come on, Alex Ward's Pink and Black Days Hour, and I'm sorry, nothing against Jerry Lee Lewis, but I thought, this is terrible. Chuck Berry, the way that he sings the lyrics, he had that umph in his voice that I just don't think Jerry Lee Lewis had. He kind of was talking through the song.
He does that a lot, yeah.
And
he does.
Yeah, I don't like this. But, there's tons of versions of different songs as well that are out there, and you can find which version you like.
Yeah, I can agree. I think for me, a lot of times when I hear multiple versions of whatever, it's usually the version I originally heard first.
True.
Is the one that I'm like, oh yeah, I really like that one. There's rare exceptions to that.
Dee Sharp is excellent. I have a Dee Sharp. It's Dee Sharp and Chubby Checker on a joint album. Oh my gosh, that is fantastic.
Am I correct in thinking Dee Sharp, that's Mashed Potato Time, correct?
Yes, she did a version of that. That's another one. The Twist, Mashed Potato Time, thousands of artists, it seems like, covered. But to me, Chubby Checker will always be the king of the Twist.
Even though if I'm not, that was that done first by Hank Ballard also, the Twist?
I do believe Hank Ballard did a version of it. I don't know if he was the first.
I can't remember off the top of my head, but I want to say that his was the first, but I might be wrong. Unfortunately, I don't have an encyclopedia brain up here.
I know Chubby Checker got his inspiration from somewhere. Yeah. It's interesting too with 50s and 60s artists, there might be a song that came out originally and then another artist covered it, and that artist, Love Potion #9 is a great example of that. The Coasters did I think the Coasters, I could be wrong, did a version of it, and their version topped the charts, but some of the original versions didn't do as well. So it's just interesting how one group could take a song and do it in their version. I believe the Clovers also did a version of Love Potion #9. Maybe they were the first. I don't know. There's so many different groups sometimes, and you might have, like you have the Dubs. There actually was 2 different doo-wop groups with the name the Dubs, which is interesting. The Dubs have a great song.
Yeah, I know. Love Potion #9. That's one of the few songs that was started as a doo-wop song and then was kind of adapted for the British invasion era by another. I don't remember which band that was that did that in the rock version. But I'm like, this is a doo-wop song. It seems kind of strange that they did that with that. And of course, their version was a big hit too.
Yeah.
Lots of good stuff coming in there.
Hank Ballard and the Midnighters released Twist in 1958 as a B. Oh, okay.
So yeah, I wasn't sure. I think I have that actually. I was on a 45. I may have something by him somewhere. So
okay, cool. I don't know that either.
Katie, I want to say thank you for joining us tonight. We're getting close to our hour here, and tell us about where people can find you and what you do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I enjoyed talking. I have so many fun albums behind me that just barely scratch the surface when it comes to 50s and 60s music. But you can find me over on Instagram at vintage_and_vinyl. I always post some videos of what I'm listening to on my turntable. Those usually hit over the weekend. And then I have fun photos of some of my collections. I love vintage advertising. It's another love of mine. You can also find me on YouTube at vintage ampersand and vinyl. And then I also am on TikTok at vintage and vinyl, I think with the ampersand. But if you go to my channel, I've got a link tree with all of my stuff linked down below. But you can find me on all of those places. And I'll have a premiere this Wednesday at 8 o'clock, and it will be my big apartment tour, which will be fun.
I can't wait.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
I know, right?
Lots of great stuff, and I can't wait to see, because I know when you did the live apartment tour, you had just moved in and everything wasn't quite ready. So now you're obviously settled in, and I can't wait to see that. So that'll be fun. Dawn, you guys are doing all kinds of things every week, every day, like me. You're doing something.
Almost. It seems like it. Thanks. Yeah. First of all, thank you again for coming in, everybody. We really appreciate seeing you. Love to hear your questions. Love the information exchanges in the chat. Mary and I are on Tuesdays and Thursdays at noon Eastern time. We do a show called Chick Chat, where we just for an hour get together with the people in the chat and talk about our daily lives, reselling cats, dogs, cars, whatever,
food,
family life, food, lots of food for sure. And then we're on Wednesday. We're on with Johnny and his Hump Day auction. We do 45 lots there, as well as many other things. So come on in. That's at 2 o'clock Eastern time on Wednesdays. And then Mondays, we do the Death Pile clearance with the girls, Melody Lightbeam and BMOS Mercantile, 1 o'clock on Melanie's channel, to be precise. And then we're also doing, of course, this every other week. So thank you again. And hopefully the next 2 weeks, it'll be on my channel. So come on over to our channel, Two Hip Chicks. And last but not least, we've been doing some 45 grading live. We set up StreamYard, and I put the link in the community page of the Two Hip Chicks channel. And you're welcome to come in and just kind of hang out like you would in the back room of StreamYard here, like we're doing this. And I put the turntable on, I set it to stereo, and I let you guys listen to what I'm play grading while I do it. So watch for those notices. They show up in the community page.
Did you do any of those over the weekend? Because I was busy and I couldn't get over there. Damn it.
That's all right.
I would have been there.
We'll talk about it. I recorded them for you.
Of course, over here, I got the usual stuff with mine. I am, in addition to this show every other week, I do the Kirkham Report every Saturday. I also have shows during the week, Influencers on Tuesday and Rank This on Thursday, and the Retro Radio Countdown on Sunday. Those are all posted around 4 o'clock Eastern Time. And I have a daily Obscuria song I post every morning at 11 a.m., all on TKR Video Central. I have a couple other things working in the works that I hope to premiere before the end of the year. We'll see what happens. And still coming next, probably next Memorial Day weekend, mini-series called The Summer of 78, which I'm still working on. So don't give up. It's coming eventually.
Okay.
Katie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
And it was a great deal of fun. And I hope everybody out there will check out Katie's stuff. Katie's always got great stuff. Loved her vacation stuff because she was doing lives from all of the different videos that they ran in the lobby of the hotel. What hotel was your? Union Station, right?
Union Station, and they do light shows on the train station ceiling, and it's not just dinky little laser light shows. These are
they were
designed the Vegas Strip and Cirque du Soleil. They have like over, I think, 10 projectors that project these images, and they have a Queen and a Beatles show. And it is one of the most intricate, incredible things that it's just something I can't describe here. I went live for all of the shows, and I got to show them on my YouTube channel. And so definitely go check those out because the Queen and Beatles are just killer cool.
Yeah, I was there live. They were watching when she had them on live. They were fantastic. They were all very cool. Makes me want a vacation in St. Louis. I mean, they just go into the Del Mar Loop and all the restaurants she went to. I've been to St. Louis years ago for a Doctor Who con, but I was stuck at the airport most of the time, so I didn't really get anywhere. But I'd love to go there again. Katie, thank you very much. And Dawn, we will be back with you on October 24th for Two Hip Chicks for the next episode of Finding Your Music Mojo. And until then, we hope you will continue to have fun with all of us. I'm TC.
I'm Dawn.
And for Katie, we'll see you soon.
Bye, friends.
Bye, everybody.